When I was always real active in church because, well, there wasn't another choice. On Sunday, there was the choice of either being dead or going to church, and that wasn't much of a choice. So I went to church pretty regularly all the way through, and I guess it was the end of high school that I realized even going to church, being kind of the good kid, God's guy, that I was still pretty miserable. And I couldn't figure out why, if you do everything right, do you feel still pretty miserable? And if I was doing the good stuff and being God's guy, it just didn't make any sense. So it was my senior year, and I had graduated from high school, supposed to go to youth camp, help out, be one of the counselors, and I thought, I've got no business being a counselor of anything because I'm feeling pretty miserable. Instead, I went hiking by myself in the North Georgia mountains, and I did something pretty unusual. I took a Bible with me. I had started to read it before, but every time I started to read it, I fell asleep, really, pretty much is what I did. But this time was a little different. And I had a sense that after reading, especially I was reading the book of Romans, that what God was calling us to was a relationship with Him, and that we're made right not by being God's guy and not by following all the rules, and no matter how I did academically or in sports or whatever, that life is found in Jesus and not in that big long list of rules that you do or you don't do. And for the first time, my life started to change, and I started experiencing joy for the first time, rather than one way of saying, rather than just happiness. You know, happiness is when you laugh, and as soon as the chuckling's over, the happiness is too. Joy was something completely different, and that life began to grow in me a lot. That wasn't at that time that I sensed a call to be a minister. That was a lot of years later. But started reading my Bible then every day, and I wanted to start with just as much as I knew that I would read in one day, so I only started with like 4 or 5 verses a day, and I started in the New Testament, and I wanted to know more about Jesus, and that's what began to build the relationship with me, is beginning to know more about Jesus in the way that Matthew and Mark and Luke and John wrote about Jesus. And then I began to see the Bible not as just a big fat book full of dead words and dead people, that started to sense the life that Jesus offers.